Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, all that good stuff. Today we're going to talk about Bride Party. Chad Chaddington, who is a one of the guys that does the Chippendales type routines at these brides party. He's like, these women. There was one wedding I went to where every woman there cheated. Wait staff, dancers, rando dudes that were hanging out. These women go crazy. And the reason why this is the worst is because not only are these many of these women in relationships already, but this is the moment you're supposed to be celebrating, like the start of another relationship where you're supposed to, be married, be with somebody, be their forever perfect woman, and come to find out they're worse than everybody else. I would also like to say that as of start of the video, today is the first day where there were more people watching on Locals than Rumble. That's good. The Locals community is growing very quickly. So if you'd like to be a part of that, where we do movie nights and sports events and UFC Fight Night, the next one we're doing is UFC 311. That is coming up here in a week. Make sure to pop over to betterbachelor.locals.com. Become a supporter today, $5 a month. You get to be with a bunch of like-minded men in an amazing community where we do all sorts of crazy stuff. So if you're not a member, go over there, check it out. Lots of guys over there. More people now, I think, watch Man Locals than Rumble. So I think that's a good thing. Hey, you know what? Before we jump into the main video, let me do my today's sponsor read. We'll get it out of the way. It's a very short read, and then we'll get on to the main story here. Let's hear from the awesome people over at the Wellness Company looking out for your health. Are the globalists gearing up for a pandemic scare after failing at the ballot box in November? Just weeks before President Trump's inauguration, California Governor Gavin Newsom has declared a bird flu state of emergency, granting himself sweeping powers reminiscent of COVID-19 policies. This comes after a severe case of H5N1 bird flu was reported in Louisiana. Critics, like Nicholas Holscher, warn that pandemic fears may be weaponized to challenge Trump's agenda, including the nomination of RFK Jr. to lead the HHS. Is this a health crisis or a power play? Last summer, Dr. Peter McCullough warned about the bird flu, linking the virus's rapid spread to gain-of-function research, now a common practice at many labs globally. Dr. McCullough urges early prevention just in case, recommending a contagion emergency kit from the Wellness Company, his medical board-approved solution with 5 critical life-saving medications like ivermectin, Tamiflu, a nebulizer, and hydroxychloroquine. Every household can now have access to these hard-to-get medications in the event of another pandemic. Get yours today by filling out a digital intake form, and your kit arrives in 1 to 2 weeks. Don't wait until the deep state puts their plans into action. Stay ready for the unexpected. Head to twc.health/oddmanout and use code oddmanout to save $30 off plus free shipping. Available to U.S. residents only. Again, be safe with ivermectin and life-saving meds at the Wellness Company. Don't get caught unprepared. Use code oddmanout. Saves $30 off and free shipping. Alrighty, now on to the main story. So a male, I'm not sure if this word can be said on YouTube, but a male dancer, I know that word can be said on YouTube. A male dancer reveals crazy cheating trend for brides. Every single one at one individual party, every single woman at the thing. And then I actually have a story from a Reddit user that went through this. And, this story, I think of all the stories that I read, there's lots of them that are kind of suck, you know what I mean? This one I think is one of the bad ones. This one and like paternity fraud, which I actually have a story of that we're going to talk about as well today, which is a footballer finds out that a DNA test, he's not the father of his now ex-girlfriend's kid, and he did this, he found out after he tattooed the kid's name on him. You know, the finding out you're not the dad is the worst, I think, because not only do you realize that the kids are not yours, but the woman that you had them with meant she was letting another guy raw dog and make her in the motherly way, and then she lied to you. So that is the biggest, like, crush for a man. But the other one is, right before you get married, that's supposed to be, traditionally at least, the most exciting time for a relationship. You're moving to the next phase, the forever phase. You found the one woman you're going to spend your life with. And this guy, who's definitely, I don't know about you, but if you were going to call up the definition of Chad Chaddington, this is the guy she tells you not to worry about, right? And so he goes to these events and he's like, yeah, man, they're wild. And not only do a lot of them cheat, they don't admit that they're in relationships, so he thinks the number's much higher than it actually is. They say a male dancer has revealed that working in the industry has taught him that women are just as likely to cheat as men. Nath Wild has witnessed Aussie cheating culture up close and personal from working numerous bachelorette parties. The 31-year-old, who used to be a tradesman, has some wild experiences working at parties where no one's partner is around. I was basically, if we're going to read this, partner can be confusing. It's not like this woman has a lesbian girlfriend. No, it's working parties when no one's boyfriend or husband is around. That's the correct terminology here. He said, I was once doing a party where I traveled interstate and every single one of the girls at the bachelorette party cheated on their partners, he told news.com.au. It was so crazy, and they all made a pact that they would never talk about it again. I get I'm pretty sure if a guy goes out and he hooked up at a bachelorette party, the guys are going to make a pact not to talk about it, and they're not going to expose the guy. I get that. It's not like, these women making pacts, secret pacts not to talk about it. Well, of course you're not going to talk about it. But the point is that women are supposed to, at least according to what they tell us, the fairer, gentler sex, the smarter sex, the less promiscuous sex. And it's men that are dogs, and it's men that are doing all these crazy things. Well, turns out not so much, that actually the women are kind of the ones that are going crazy. There's no real statistic. I'm trying to think of how I want to phrase this. There's no real statistics on this stuff because women lie. We know they lie. That's why there's the joke about whatever a woman tells you her body count is, multiply it by 3 and add 10 or add 7 or whatever it is. We know they lie about this stuff. So if Chad Thunderstroke here is at one of these events and he's hung like a Shetland pony, these women go crazy. I have seen videos, and I obviously will not show it here. I didn't bother looking it up because it's not really internet friendly, where it was at an event in, I want to say it was either in Las Vegas or somewhere out in Nevada. Chippendales, that's the word I'm looking for. Although I look over in chat, yes, finally, you guys are catching up. And it was a video in somewhere in Vegas. They had to call the cops because the women were actually having sex with the dancers right there in the audience. Like women were pulling down their trousers and kissing the snake, if you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? And so they had to call the cops because these women went crazy, just buck wild. He said lots of girls tend to sleep with male dancers in general, and they also might not tell you that they are cheating on their partner with you, he said. Wild said that when he started working bachelorette parties, he was surprised by how crazy the girls got, and he figures they behave no better than men do at stag parties. I'll say this. I think they're worse. I think they're worse, and here's why. Number one, the men don't mind being touched. They're not afraid that a mob of women is going to tackle them and have their way with a man against his will. So it's much different. A lot of times at these, at the men's type parties, at the bachelor parties, yes, you might hire a professional, but you're not hiring like 8 professionals unless you're in a Hollywood movie. And usually the women will do their dance, they get their money, they've got a bouncer or a dude or two that come with them to the place to guard the women and make sure that men don't go crazy. The men usually behave themselves. I've been to bachelor parties myself. I think there were a couple instances where they hired somebody, and most of us guys sat around, we're laughing because the groom's getting, a dance, and he's getting embarrassed a little bit, and we're making fun of him. And every time that happened, number one, if he got a little frisky with his hands, the woman would grab his hands, put him down to his side, and say, this is a looking-only event. And again, they'd have a couple of big dudes by the door, making sure you didn't go too far. These women have no guardrails like that. And I've seen the videos. If you just go looking for them, they're not hard to find. The internet is forever. You can see these women at these Chippendale events going nuts. So I would say the women are way worse. because I don't know. I guess the guys are fine to do it, happy to do it, and they're not worried about having any problems. The narrative is always that the guys are always the worst and they F up more, especially in a Bucks party setting. But what shocked me is that women are no different. He said, in fact, Wilde said he believes women in some ways can be worse because they don't think they'll get caught or their partners are less worried in the first place. That, I think, is the biggest tell out of all of this stuff, is that most guys say, my girlfriend's not like that. My wife is not like that. They're just going to sit around and, have funny hats on and embarrass each other and go out for a late. No. They're freakazoids. And because men are usually, at least, so trusting and not worried about their women doing something, this gives the women a free pass to say, well, I guess I'm going to do something and he doesn't even mistrust me. He said, go ahead, have a good time. Let me know when you're home. Where if a guy goes to do this stuff, the woman's going to say, is there going to be one of these dancers there? You better behave. I'm going to keep an eye on you. Where's the event? What time are you going to get home? That's how the women are. The guys really should be like that. Women are the same in that setting, when there's no guys around, and they do the same, and they probably take more risks because they think they can get away with it being a girl. He said he isn't shocked by the cheating anymore because he's seen a lot of it, and it becomes part of the job. He'd say about 1 in 10 brides cheat. Now, that's not 1 in 10 women at the parties. He's saying 1 in 10 brides cheat. And I'm guessing at least 1 or 2 of the women at every party cheat. Despite what he's seen, now this is the irony. This is the irony. This is why we say all women are like that, right? This guy literally comes out and says, I've been to these parties. These women are crazy. He says they cheat more than men. And then after saying all this, he says, despite what he's seen, it hasn't made him cynical about his own dating life or relationships, and he still believes in monogamy. So if he's going to these parties, and I guess he's saying that when he's in a monogamous relationship, he's not sleeping with these women, which means he's not probably ever in a monogamous relationship. He just stays single. And his lifestyle basically is getting paid to show up and flex and to pull panties down and then to clap cheeks. And that's what he gets paid for. So obviously, is this guy going to settle down? Is he going to get married? Is he going to move on with his monogamous lifestyle? No, of course not. He's having a hell of a great time. He gets to probably pick the prettiest one out of the event and have his way with her afterwards. He said, if you find the right person, then you know it's not going to happen. You just have to trust your partner. This guy says that's clapping bridesmaids' cheeks and brides' cheeks. If you have a partner, you have to trust that it's not going to happen and you won't be put in that situation, he explained. Yes, every guy whose woman goes to that party, he trusts that his woman is not going to be that woman and that guy's not going to be put in that situation. But then this dummy's like, well, it happens to other guys, but not me because I'm a long stroke, Chad Thunderstroke. It's going to happen to him too. I guarantee you. And there's proof of this. Again, you can look at the Hollywood actors and the movie stars and the buff dudes and the muscular guys that find out that their girlfriend's got some sly on the side. And just ask Tom Brady. He says, I think everyone's different. Everyone makes their own choices and you can't be 100% certain, but you have to trust that person you're with just wouldn't do that. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding, dummy. I love the fact that, well, it's not going to happen to me. Well, you're right. It may not happen to you for a while, but he's 31. If he ends up marrying a 22-year-old or 23-year-old and he picks out his young, hot unicorn, do you think someday she's not going to get bored of you, dude? I mean, this is from 10 years ago. 10 years ago. This was posted in Purple Pill Debate on Reddit on Monday, February 9th of 2015. Almost exactly to the day 10 years ago. What does AWALT mean to you? Not what does it mean. What does it mean to you? We were talking about all women are like that a decade ago. And there's a reason for it. Because at some root cause, all women are like that. And from being a fringe saying on the internet in the dark corners of the recesses of the web a decade ago, today from dictionary.com, what does AWALT mean? AWALT is an acronym used by men in the pickup artist and red pill world to mean all women are like that. It's the counter to NAWALT, or not all women are like that, expressing the theory that all women are predisposed to certain behaviors in certain situations. Can you believe in 10 years we went from, they're just a bunch of incel misogynists hiding in the dark corners of the internet, to AWALT being an acronym in the, this is right from dictionary.com and thesaurus.com. We've made the mainstream, gentlemen. Now, how does something like this go mainstream? Because it's kind of true. Because things stick around when they're true. You know what I mean? Like, Asian women can't drive, and Asians are good at math, to all the other ones. If I get into too many of them here on the internet, I'll probably get myself in trouble. I'm pretty sure I can do the Asian woman one, though. Those stick around because they're true. And we went from fringe of the internet into dictionary.com with all women are like that, because there is truth to it. Hypergamy, something that, men's channels have talked about, to now it is talked about in sociology papers, and how this is actually a big deal. And in reality, these things stick around because there is a thread of truth to all of it. Let me jump and read this, because this happened to a guy, and it was devastation for him. Let me see where the main post is. He says, I've been with my fiance going on 4 years. Now, 4 years with a woman is enough that most of you would say, I know her, I trust her, I know what's up, I don't have to worry about her, she's a good girl, she's only had X amount of partners, she's not crazy, she doesn't go out and drink, she doesn't do any of this craziness. He said, we got engaged a little over a year ago, and we're going to put a rush on the wedding because her mother was sick. Her mom had been a smoker for a long time, quit, picked it back up, and then developed cancer. To look at her mom, you'd never suspect she was a smoker, but she'd picked up the habit. Her mother grew too ill for a wedding, so the idea of putting one the idea of putting one together quickly faded, and instead of a couple of months ago, she passed. So I guess she didn't make it. My fiance was devastated to lose her mom at such a young age. I offered to postpone the wedding, but she really wanted to move forward with it and took to the planning. So they tried to move it up for mom. Mom didn't make it. And he said, hey, let's put it off until you're done grieving. And the girlfriend's like, or the fiance is like, nope, I'm excited for this. I want to plan. Let's just go ahead and do it. And he's like, okay. He said, we agreed that we weren't too interested in bachelorette parties. And instead, we decided to do something low key. Her maid of honor approached me about doing something more substantive for the fiance, as she lost her mom not too long ago. I thought it was a good idea. I arranged for dinner, drinks, and fun with my groomsmen. The best man, my brother, and my best friend booked a steakhouse and then arranged for drinks at a nice place afterwards. They brought me a nice cigar for the lounge, and we had a tremendous time. So the men that you hear all the time that go crazy at these stag parties and that go nuts and go over the top, and they're the bad ones, this guy says, hey, I got together with some friends. We got some nice drinks. We got a couple of cigars. We went for a nice dinner. We had a good time. This is where the problem starts. This is where the trouble starts. The first line will, for those of you guys that have had cheating wives and girlfriends and everybody else, the first line of this is the first place where you're going to go, and there it is. There we go. My fiance was texting me, and then her phone died. There, that's warning number one. Where's my her phone died. Now, if you guys know anything about women do not walk around with uncharged phones. That is like somebody that needs a pacemaker walking around without their pacemaker battery being charged. A woman that says her phone died is a woman that's up to no good. 100% of the time. 99% of the time. She was out incredibly late. Her friends said they packed it in around 5 a.m. and then slept most of the morning and ate a lunch rather than brunch. When she got home, she was still hungover, basically laid in bed, drank Gatorade. The Saturday and Sunday were pretty much a write-off, blah, blah, blah. Things were fine until last night when she asked me to find something on her phone. I noticed a message came through that saying my name. He said, so yeah, obviously if you look through the list of texts that are coming in and you see your name coming in from one of her friends, you'd be like, what's that about? I would. I know you guys would. He said, I snooped and it said, I also hope this guy's name, we'll call this guy Bob. It said, I hope Bob doesn't find out. I scroll up and it's a nightmare. This afternoon, my fiance texts her maid of honor saying she hasn't been that drunk in a long time, and her friends follows up with, I know, a series of photos, my wife and friends in a room. Most of the women are topless, including my fiance, and there's a male dancer. The fiance responds, oh God, can we not? And another photo follows with the guy kissing her neck while her friends are topless, holding alcohol, and obviously acting poorly. The fiance texts, I feel bad because Bob had such a tame night. He's such a good boy. That's not good. When your woman refers to you as a good boy, that makes it sound like you're a puppy dog and or a weak man she doesn't respect. She said, I feel bad because Bob had such a tame night. He's such a good boy. I hope he doesn't find out. And that's when the maid of honor responds, I also hope Bob doesn't find out. And by this point has added, he'd leave you. During their night out, someone must have used her phone to take photos to commemorate her little dalliance because there must have been another half dozen photos on her phone. Now, do you recall just a moment ago when I started this is when you start worrying? Fiance was texting me and then her phone died. And then later on, somebody must have used her phone because there were dozens of photos on her phone. The worst being what looks like my fiance topless, laying in a bed with friends around her, and the guy also completely undressed, being inappropriate. He said, I didn't know what to do. You know, my parents don't know. She started crying when I confronted her. She apologized, said she was drunk. After a few hours of arguing, fiance tells me that they went to someone's house where they all got obliterated, and that's when the guy showed up. So a guy shows up to these women's house, and they all take their tops off, and next thing you know, the guy's undressed. So again, it's not one woman was bad. It's not just the fiance was bad. It's not just the bride was bad, but so is the maid of honor, and all the other women took their tops off. All of them were inappropriate. Every single one of them. And that was only with one dude there. Now, what happens when there's multiple dudes? What happens where there's he's just a friend and he popped by to wish me well? We know how this goes. And the funny thing is, I'm not going to read down the whole rest of the story. It's not that much longer. But when he confronted her, the maid of honor, because he said he stopped taking his fiance's phone calls, he was angry, he wanted to cool off, and he was getting bombarded with texts from the fiance. And then the maid of honor that set up this whole deal, that took the photos of the bride in bed with this guy with his clothes off, the maid of honor starts calling the guy writing this article, again, we'll call him Bob, the maid of honor calls him an a-hole for being mad and for not understanding that his fiance was drunk and therefore obviously couldn't take responsibility for letting another guy crawl all over her, while, I don't know, half a dozen or a dozen women with their tops off also let it happen to the woman that was getting married and didn't look out for their friend and didn't protect their friend and didn't guard. Nope, just let the guy that's the dancer have his way. And then you wonder why this guy that wrote this is pissed off and saying, like, I don't care. There's no free passes here. He did do a follow-up where he talked to the father-in-law, her father, and the father-in-law is like, look, man, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what to tell you here. Like, she's embarrassed, obviously, and she's crying, and she made a big mistake. But, like, her dad wasn't like, you need to do the right thing and marry her. He didn't say that. He was like, well, yeah, I kind of see why you're angry, and I'm really disappointed in my daughter because this guy, and again, I'm not going to read the whole story, but this guy told the father-in-law what happened and that there were photos, and the father-in-law is like, how bad were they? And the guy's like, I'm not going to show you these photos. You'll never think of your daughter the same. And the father-in-law was like, damn. I'm not saying that all women do this, but look, if we're going to be honest about this, right? This reminds me, maybe this is a good way to put it, because I was thinking about this earlier. How do you phrase this in a way that makes sense for people to understand? Let's look, I'm going to tie in some current news right now with the California Fire Department and the California fires that are going on right now, okay? They think the original fire started in one person's backyard. One person's backyard may have started all these fires. Now, they also think that another set of fires may have been caused by power lines because the power lines there are like 100 years old because they don't keep up on infrastructure. So it may have started innocently, right? But now you've got people that are running around. They're being arrested. One guy was arrested for holding a blowtorch and kicking off these fires, starting fires, so that more of it burns. And more people need to be evacuated. And then these guys that are looting homes are dressing up like members of the fire department. In other words, putting on, the yellow striped vests and maybe even a fake helmet or something or other. And they're checking on homes by kicking in the doors of the abandoned houses and stealing from them and robbing them blind. And because of this, now this might be $500 billion worth of damage to California and all the homes and look at all the lives that have been upended, all this craziness. And it all happened because of maybe an incident or an accident or two, and then purposefully people running around, a handful of people, maybe 5 to 10 people running around purposefully setting these blazes and then robbing homes. And you think about this and you say, but there's 10 million people that live in this area and everything has been destroyed by 5 or 10 bad people. Now let's look at the dating market. Let's look at the institution of marriage, right? It's way more than 5 or 10 bad people. But overall, it is a small percentage. 5 or 10 people out of the 10 million people in Los Angeles is like 0.00001%. But they've upended and ruined everybody's life in these cities in California from just 5 or 10 people. Now let's look at the dating market and marriage. Only 1 or 2% of American women or Australian women or women in England, wherever you are in the Western world, only 1% do only fools work. Only 1 or 2%. Only 50% do foodie calls on dates. Only 50% use makeup filters. Only 30% lie about this, only 50% have body counts more than 10, only 50, and you start adding these small percentages. Some of them are big percentages, let's be honest. 60% vote left, and 40% or 50% support baby deletion, and 40% believe in the LGHD TV, and 30% are on medications because they have issues. They're members of the dark triad, and they have what do they call it? What's the word I'm looking for? Like mental problems. So 30% take medication for that, and 10% drink to tame down their craziness so that they can cope with the world. And when you start adding all these percentages together, you realize like, oh, this is bad. Yeah, there may be some crossover where the ones that are taking the medication might be the same ones that believe in this way and vote. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of crossover. But when you take 50% and 30% and 10% and 1 or 2% and 5% and you add it all together, it's a large portion of women. And so when you look at something like the devastation that 5 or 10 people can do with the wildfires, and you look at the misery and the pain and the suffering they've caused for tens of millions of people, what happens when half or more of the entire dating market is that way? What happened? Oh, it's only 10% of brides. Okay, that's 1 out of 10 women going to get married is sleeping with somebody at these events. Not to mention the maid of honor and the bridesmaids and all these other people that are involved that do have boyfriends or husbands that aren't the ones getting married on that day, that say, oh, there's this hot stripper and he's going to plow me and nobody's going to find out, and my husband's boring, and I haven't had a man tell me I'm attractive since I had the kid, and next thing you know, 9 inches are disappearing in the hallway. It's the ending of an institution by 1,000 cuts, by 1,000,000 cuts. And some of these are really big slat. You know what I mean? Like, these aren't just like tiny instances. Some of these are real big deals. And when men in general, look, this is a New York Post article, okay? This is a New York Post article. And at almost every stage, every article, every instance, every Only Fools content creator goes viral for this. Woman goes viral for this. Teacher, female teacher is arrested for doing this with student. This happened. Every single one of these stories is awful for women. I did not plan this ahead of time, but there's a link right here at the top of this page. I'm a New York City mom of 1, and kids aren't worth it. I don't want my own children. I don't even like my own kids. That's all these web pages, that's all this clickbait, this viral stuff is women being bad. Now granted, there's no stories of men being awesome because they can't write about that. But women are empowered now. Women can do everything. And every story that's coming out about them is over the top. So much so that if I just did a video for every headline, 2 things would happen. Number 1, I'd have 5 videos a day. And number 2, you'd be like, yeah, dude, we already know all this. Like, I'm getting tired of watching your videos, which is happening to some degree as it is now, because it's always women have gone crazy. But this is a reminder that none of this changes. And for this guy, this guy here, Chad Thunderstroke, that says, oh, monogamy, and if you pick the right person, it's not going to worry about you. And there is no right person. There is no proof. DNA test reveals Vinicius, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Vinicius, not the father of ex-girlfriend's child. Here's a guy that plays sports. He's 20 years old. He's a footballer, which I guess that means soccer, but we Americans don't call it footballer. He tattoos the name of his daughter because he's now shocked to find out he's not the biological father of the child he believed to be his. His ex-girlfriend, he tattoos the name of the girl on his arm. And then his ex-girlfriend's like, by the way, yeah, the kid's not yours, because he did a DNA test, which confirmed that the kid wasn't his. And they say the real father, now get this, you're a Brazilian footballer. That means you're extremely athletic. I've seen pictures of the guy. He's not a bad-looking guy. So you're not bad-looking. You're a decently tall individual. There's not a lot of footballers that are 5'6". Usually you need long legs to be able to run up and down that field and be able to keep up with other soccer players. So he's probably close to 6 foot tall. He's 20 years old. He's a peak athletic shape, good looking, plays for a professional team. This is about as alpha as you can get as a man. According to Brazilian outlet Leo Dias, the child's real father is speculated to be a guy named Vinicius Duarte. And now, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. Acai, A-C-A-I, Acai, delivery man. I think Acai is a drink or a beverage, if I remember correctly. So the real father is a delivery man whom Lima had an affair with during her on and off relationship with Tobias. So how do you manage to be a 20 or 21-year-old athlete playing for a professional team, You're athletic, you're good looking, you're tall, you've got successful contracts getting paid as a professional sports athlete, and come to find out the kid isn't yours. She had a side piece with a delivery driver. How do you win? At what point can you say, I'm so Chad Alpha, I don't have to worry about women stepping out on me. I don't have to worry about women cheating on me. She got pregnant, which means, again, no protection, raw dog on the backside, by another dude, and this guy doesn't find out it's not his kid until after the baby's born, and he has a tattoo of the kid on his arm. I mean this as a genuine, honest question. Which one of you are man enough to think it'll never happen to me? My woman wouldn't cheat on me. Never happened to me. I am too alpha Chad, winner, good-looking, athletic, awesome superstar. She'd be a fool. What? Pff, she's not going to get some rando at a bachelorette party. She's not going to let some delivery driver's going to swing by and drop off some acai or acai, I don't know however you pronounce it, acai tea. Some rando delivery driver's going to drop off DoorDash and my girlfriend's going to greet him and just let him raw dog it. Well, it's happening. So how do you think you're going to keep a woman? How do you think you're going to keep a woman? So when you add these percentages together, you don't have a chance. Somebody else did the Tinder social experiment. They say social experiment. Alpha Tyler, his name is Tyler, 31 years old, advertises criminal record for beating a woman, receives more than 800 plus matches within the first 48 hours on Tinder. And this is somebody else that did this social experiment because it's so over the top you can't help it. One of the chats says down here, a woman asks, I've got to ask about this criminal record of yours. I'm intrigued. Now, under Tyler's About Me, it says, I have a criminal record for beating a woman, but we all have a past. Now, I don't know about you, but if I put on a social media profile that I did that, I would be reported and removed and blocked from ever using Tinder again by probably the first three people that saw the first three women that saw my profile, because I am a short, stout, bald man. But when it's Tyler, she says, I've got to ask about this criminal record of yours. I'm intrigued, to say the least. He said, she caught me cheating. I'll zoom this up. I'm reading this little one down here in the corner. She caught me cheating, but this was years ago. I have to be honest, and I am not the same. So he says, I beat her because she caught me cheating. And then the woman replies, I'll give credit where credit is due. I appreciate the honesty. And then continued on the conversation. Another woman says something about, is it okay, is it acceptable for something me comment on your eyes? And he didn't reply. Oh, by the way, these women are sending the first comments. He did not initiate the conversations. The women initiated the conversations. He didn't say anything. She replies with, seems like a yes. He said, exceptions can be made. She says, good. He said, I must admit I don't shower. And she says, what? You must be joking. But it's the fact that the women continued to keep talking to him after he said, I don't shower. Yep. Beat up women, I don't shower. And the women are like, well, tell me about this. So why don't you? Why are they still talking to him? This is why they're still talking to him. It doesn't matter what you say. Women don't want a nice man. They don't want a sweet man. They don't want a loving man. They want a dangerous, good-looking guy. And they punish you time after time after time. Let me. Here's all the matches. This woman says, wow, I'm going to be completely honest. That she sent the first message. Araya says something, the first message. Another one says, what can I say? First message. What's your favorite Italian dish? First message. Hey, handsome, XX. First message. Jessica, hey, how's your first message? This woman says, first message. Do you want to make another half blank, half Italian baby? I don't know. Maybe she used a profanity. I don't know. He says, my apartment. She says, yes. That's it. If you look like this, she will literally say, hey, do you want to make a half blank, whatever it was, half Italian baby? That's basically her saying, would you like to sleep with me and also like raw dog it? And he's like, my apartment? She's like, yep, that's all it takes. I do these videos, and many of you said, dude, you've done videos like this for 5 years. Yes, I have. And nothing's changed. Do you understand really how fundamentally insane that is? That we've been calling this out for 5 to 10 years, my channel plus other channel. Actually, I think I might be coming up on my 6th year of doing this, 2019. Yeah, I'm coming up on my 6th year of doing this content. I started with videos like this my first month of doing content, and nothing has changed. The next generation is just as insane as the previous generation. The women tell you they want a good man, a strong man, a loving man, a supportive man, a sweet man, and then this is the guy they'll sleep with. And then when, I don't know, he beats them, or when he doesn't call them back, or they end up getting pregnant, or they get an STD or something like that, this is all men to them. All men are pigs. This is who they're talking about. This is the representation of all men. We are not men to them, you see. We're invisible. We don't exist. Lastly, I'll leave it with this. This is the woman that this is on her dating profile. This is what she looks like. She's mid at best, overweight, has the body of what I would call slightly mashed potato, which means she's still kind of in the shape of a potato, but it's not firm like a potato. It's soft like mashed potatoes. Her fall wish list. A man that's nice and kind and sincere and love. No, I'm just kidding. 5'11" plus, which means 6 foot tall. She just doesn't want to be like all the other girls saying 6 foot tall. Responds to texts in under 2 hours. Now, why would she put that on there? Because the men she hooks up with don't respond to texts within 2 hours. They may not respond to texts ever, because men are dating down to sleep with her and then ghosting her. And she's tired of not getting response to her texts within 2 hours. She's not tired of sleeping with those men. She's not tired of getting attention from those men. She still wants those men. She just wants one that will reply in 2 hours. That will not happen, by the way. A man that pays for dinner. Now, don't most men pay for dinner? Well, yes. If you go out on a date, most men would probably pay for dinner, unless you're meeting on Tinder and you're just going to his place and you're smashing and you're not going to dinner. Or you're meeting up with him because he's not going to buy you dinner because he's really not going to put any money or effort into a woman that looks like this, even if he will smash her. So she's going on hookup dates where the guy's not paying for dinner. But that's, she doesn't want the average guy that'll respond to texts. She doesn't want the short guy that'll buy dinner. You have to be Tyler over here. You have to be this guy, but also reply to texts and also be pay for dinner. Makes a plan. You have to be a man that makes a plan. Most men make plans for dates and dinners unless you're just smashing. Liberal, but can lift heavy things. No. That's not going to happen. Has a passport. Yes, if they do have a passport, they become passport bros and you'll probably never meet. Pretends to listen when I talk about Taylor Swift. If that is the height of your engaging conversation, good luck to you, because no man wants to talk about Taylor Swift, and even gay men don't want to listen to you talk about Taylor Swift. And lastly, a 6-figure salary. So you want him to be 6 foot tall. You want him to be 6-figure salary and lift heavy things, which means probably athletic and a 6-pack. So congratulations, you want all the 6s. You're literally like every other woman that exists out there today. Enjoy your cats and your wine. It's just never going to happen. There's nothing getting better. I have now, eventually, you guys will all get tired of my content. I know this. I'll be old man Joker, 74 years old, saying, well, now the Gen Beta, Gen X went through it, and then the millennials went through it, and then Gen Z went through it, and Gen Alpha went through it, and Gen Beta went through it, and Gen Charlie, whatever they call them after that, Gen Charlie went, and now they never learn. They never learn. They never learn. I have a long career of doing these videos. I will never run out of content. The only sad part is eventually you guys will get so tired of hearing me talk about it that you'll go watch other videos. And that's okay. Because when it comes to winning, the fact that dictionary.com now has a Walt in there, when sociology web pages are talking about hypergamy and understanding women's true nature, we've won. We're winning. Unfortunately, it's the ladies that'll lose in the long run, or, men that actually wanted to have a real relationship in their lives.